Chapter 1, The Abyss of Crazy Slots. On a silent battlefield, a dissonant electronic sound echoes. Turururu. A frivolous spinning noise. It represents the most avoided element on the line between life and death, uncertainty. This is Kite's Nin ability, Crazy Slots. As a conjurer, what he created was not a simple sword or gun. It is a strange scepter adorned with a clown's head that possesses a will, speaks, and even mocks its own master. In the extreme state of combat, where a single moment of judgment can be fatal, Kite is forced to converse with this clown. "Hey, what's coming out?" Kite asks. The clown merely laughs eerily and spins the roulette. Here exists a chaotic ritual, the exact opposite of the rational battles fought by professional hunters. Why was such an inconvenient ability created? To find the answer, we must first unravel the iron rules that bind this power. Crazy Slots carries a heavy restriction and pledge severe constraints imposed either because the power is too strong, or to make it strong. The rules are brutally simple. A weapon corresponding to a number from 1 to 9 appears randomly. And, the weapon cannot be dismissed until it is used at least once. He cannot choose the weapon to fit the battle, he must adapt his tactics to fit the weapon. This means there is no guarantee a long-range weapon will appear against an enemy skilled in close combat, and vice versa. Normally, a Nin ability is optimized to fit one's aptitude and personality. However, Kite's ability directly denies this theory. Yet, this intense inconvenience of not being able to choose acts as a catalyst, exponentially increasing the power of each weapon. The risk of entrusting one's life to luck. The stress of being forced to use an unwieldy weapon. All these negative emotions and restrictions, following the laws of Nin, are converted into destructive power. This is likely the essence of Nin that his master, Jing Freaks, taught him or guided him toward. Every time Kite uses this ability, he spits out the words, "It's a bad roll." The clown itself teases him, saying, "You always say that." This phrase, "bad roll," is the greatest mystery of Crazy Slots and a mirror reflecting Kite's true nature. Judging from the depictions in the story, every weapon that appears boasts one-hit kill power. Firepower capable of instantly killing a squadron leader class Chimera Ant cannot objectively be a bad roll. So, what makes it bad? One leading interpretation is the conflict between Kite's kindness and his professionalism. Kite is a biological survey specialist and inherently dislikes unnecessary killing. However, the weapons discharged by Crazy Slots are all too specialized for killing. A scythe with a wide-range attack that could involve bystanders, a long gun that blows away a head without giving the target time to suffer. For him, a bad roll is not a lack of power, but an expression of disgust toward excessive violence, or perhaps irritation at a fate that forces him to choose annihilation in a situation where he might have preferred to neutralize the target more gently. It really is a well-made ability, one cannot help but admire. Against the cautious Kite, who thinks too much during battle, the ability forcibly hands him a weapon and corners him into a situation where he has no choice but to use this to survive. It is a coercive force to cut off hesitation and force resolve. In this, one can feel the message from his master, Jing, enjoy the pinch, and make even absurdity your weapon. Chapter 2, The Manifested Numbers of Death, the Terror of the Revealed Slots. The roulette stops inside the clown's mouth, and a cold number is declared. In that instant, the scepter gripped in Kite's right hand transforms, clad in a sinister aura. Only 3 types of rolls have been confirmed in the story so far. However, each one possesses a level of perfection and destructive power that equals or surpasses the signature moves that ordinary Nin users spend a lifetime refining. First, slot number 4, the Silent Condemner, Carbine. This is the number that appeared when Kite faced the Chimera Ant squadron leader Yunju and his subordinates. Its shape is a rifle-type firearm with a barrel longer than Kite's own tall stature and a strangely shaped stock. For a conjurer to create a projectile weapon, especially a gun, is generally considered fuel inefficient. This is because creating the bullet itself, emitting it, and maintaining its power requires high-level technique and massive aura. However, Crazy Slots number 4 displayed performance that mocked such common sense. Notable are its bullet speed, silence, and speed of the initial action. Even an ant with enhancement abilities had its head accurately shot through before it could even recognize the muzzle was pointed at it. The bullet, leaving even the sound of the gunshot behind, is likely not a physical lead bullet but a condensed NaN bullet. Next, slot number 2, the Waltz of the Reaper, Scythe. When surrounded by a large number of enemies, the clown sneers and presents this number, 2. A giant scythe exceeding 2 meters in length. Its appearance is exactly that of an execution tool carried by the Grim Reaper. The greatest feature of this weapon is that it cannot be deactivated unless a specific move is used. The name of that move is Silent Waltz. When Kite readies the scythe, sharp killing intent, visible to the eye, spews from the blade, freezing the surrounding air. The fact that Gon and Killua, who were nearby, felt instinctive fear and jumped to evade without a signal speaks more eloquently of its danger than anything else. Upon activation, a slash is released horizontally in all directions, centered on Kite. It is a blow that mows down the space itself rather than cutting. The countless chimera ants swarming around were literally bisected in an instant, and even the trees were sliced apart. A wide-range annihilation weapon that does not distinguish between friend and foe. This is likely the biggest reason Kite hates this role. This scythe, which rejects cooperation with allies and forces him to become a solitary killer, may be the most troublesome bad role for Kite, the gentle educator. And finally, slot number 3, the hope-resisting despair, Rod. Facing the Royal Guard Neferpitou, a mass of despairing aura that humanity had never encountered before, the number Kite drew was 3. What appeared was a weapon that looked like a simple rod or baton adorned with a clown decoration at the tip. It does not have an obvious killing shape like number 4 or number 2. However, this number 3 is the key that allows us to peek into the abyss of crazy slots. Given its shape resembles a baton, it can be interpreted as implying a role of passing the baton of life. Although the battle with Pitou was omitted, looking at the destruction in the surrounding area and Pitou's own reaction of having had fun, Kite must have shown considerable resistance. It is highly probable that this rod was not a simple striking weapon, but possessed a special effect related to survival or soul preservation. A gun, a scythe, and a rod. These are only 3 of the rolls from 1 to 9. What kind of madness is hidden in the remaining 6 numbers? The only thing known for certain is that the weapons Kite calls bad rolls are, without exception, a death sentence for those who oppose him. Chapter 3, Where the Soul Resides and I Refuse to Die. The Truth of the Miraculous Number 3. Kite's final battle in his human life. It began too abruptly and with overwhelming violence. Deep in the forests of the NGL Autonomous Region. His right arm was taken in an instant, and he was forced into an extreme situation, acting as a rear guard to let Gon and Killua escape. Massive blood loss, an obvious difference in combat power. In a situation where a normal person would lose the will to fight and simply await death, Kite's spirit showed an astonishing reaction. At that moment, the words spoken by Crazy Slots. "You are in trouble, you might actually die." The clown, who usually mouths off, showed agreement with death for the first time. And the number spat from its mouth was number 3. The key to unlocking the essence of this number 3 lies in the words of Kite's master, Jing Freaks. Crazy Slots has a number that only comes up when he seriously thinks I absolutely refuse to die. This testimony suggests that the role of number 3 is not merely an attack method, but a special ability intended for survival itself. Normally, death in NaN ability symbolizes the end. However, Kite's Crazy Slots contained a system that rejected that end. I absolutely refuse to die. This is not simply a fighting spirit to defeat the enemy, it is an intense ego and obsession to continue one's existence in some form, even if the body perishes. The roulette was programmed to select number 3 only when that will reach its peak. So, what exactly did number 3 do? The most potent hypothesis is that it performed a ritual to separate Kite's memory, personality, and the soul, the source of his NaN, from his body and move or fix it into another vessel. Kite was decapitated by Pitou, and Kite as a physical body died. However, at that moment, or just before, his soul became a drifting energy body through the ability of number 3, and likely lodged itself into the strongest life force present nearby, the fetus, the king's twin sister whom the Chimera Ant Queen was pregnant with. Usually, Chimera Ant phagogenesis incorporates the genetic information of the eaten humans, but memories and ego are not completely inherited. However, the reincarnated Kite Reyna later asserted, "My name is Kite." This means Kite's Nen ability overrode the biological rules of phagogenesis. Even if the body is destroyed, the soul will absolutely not be extinguished. The clown's words, "You might actually die," may have been a warning, but also a signal saying, because you are on the verge of death, you can activate this reincarnation spell. Kite died. But he survived. The rod of number 3. It was a one-way ticket to immortality, more terrifying than the Grim Reaper's scythe or the deadly gun. Chapter 4, Reincarnation and the Girl, the strongest soul dwelling in a monstrous vessel. Kite's corpse was turned into a puppet by Peto. That figure was a symbol of despair, too deep and heavy for Gon, and for us readers. However, the story did not end cruelly there. Kite's body died and was played with, but his soul had left the battlefield and escaped to the most dangerous, yet safest place, the womb of the queen ant. Deep in the NGL, the Chimera ant nest. The queen gave birth to not only the absolute king, Meruem. Another life remained in her belly. A tiny infant born as the king's twin sister. The infant, protected by squadron leader Colt and raised as a human, shocked the world the moment she spoke. The girl, named Reyna, who had been showing innocent expressions, one day declared with eyes full of hockey, not asking for a stuffed toy or a playground. "My name is Kite." It was not the babbling of a toddler. The first-person pronoun, the tone, and the intelligence residing in those eyes. Everything was Kite himself, who was supposed to have scattered before Peto that day. Usually, in reincarnation into a chimera ant, it is rare for the ego to be completely continuous, even if fragments of the eaten human's memories remain. But this girl was different. There was no confusion of memory, and she clearly recognized herself as the hunter, Kite. This is the proof that the true effect of Crazy Slots number 3, complete fixation of the soul, was accomplished. Even if the body was minced and the brain eaten, the contract of the soul called Nen forcibly tethered the individual named Kite to a new vessel. What should be noted here is the potential of the reincarnated Kite. The former Kite was human. Although a master of Nen, physical limits existed. However, the vessel after reincarnation is a chimera ant, and a royal class one at that, being Meruem's twin. The chimera ant body possesses a naturally tough exoskeleton, vitality incomparable to humans, and a massive aura capacity. If Kite's Nen techniques, combat experience, and tactical eye cultivated over many years were installed as is into that strongest body, what would happen? The answer is clear. The birth of a Kite far stronger than before. Kite has overcome human frailty and obtained a body close to the biological apex. Factors such as the loss of one arm and the difference in physical durability, which caused him to fall behind Peto, are things of the past. A girl with red hair, freckles, and slightly cheeky eyes. Her appearance bears no resemblance to the tall, slender man of the past. However, on the small back of Kite, now a girl, we can see the complete fusion of the human heart and ant power that even Meruem could not possess. Her latent potential, regarded as a candidate for the next chairman of the Hunter Association, will surely hold the key to the story in the Dark Continent arc or the future beyond. The clown's magic allowed him to transcend even death, evolving Kite into a true monster. Chapter 5, Nen Stronger After Death, the Miracle of the Soul triggered by number 3. In the world of Hunter x Hunter, there is a concept that is both ominous and powerful. It is Nen that becomes stronger after death. Normally, if a user dies, their aura dissipates, and any activated abilities are cancelled. However, if they die with strong malice, obsession, or a clear sense of purpose, the Nen uses the user's death as a trigger to explode in amplification and begins to act on its own. Kite's reincarnation drama. This cannot be dismissed as simply getting lucky. While Peto, holding the severed head, excitedly said, "I might be a bit strong," what was happening in Kite's Nen space? In conclusion, Kite's reincarnation is highly likely a rare case where the system of Nen stronger after death was utilized not for attack, but for self-preservation. His master, Jean, said, "Crazy Slots has a number that only comes up when he seriously thinks I absolutely refuse to die." These words suggest the activation condition trigger for the postmortem Nen. I refuse to die. An intense craving for survival. When that reached its peak, Kite likely unconsciously made a contract using his own life as the cost. If he dies with number 3 out, The massive death energy generated at that moment is not directed at attacking the enemy, but entirely allocated to soul protection and migration. In other words, Crazy Slots No. 3 is thought to be an automatic program that prepares for reincarnation while Kite is alive, and executes the reincarnation the moment Kite dies. Interestingly, Neferpitou, who killed Kite, also activated Ninstrongr after death at the very end. Pitou, whose head was crushed by Gon, manipulated Terpsichore even as a corpse to attack Gon, driven solely by the desire to protect the king. This is postmortem Nin directed at destruction and attack. In contrast, Kite's Nin was directed at regeneration and continuation. The moment Kite's bodily functions were stopped by Pitou's attack, the electrical signal soul, memory, ego residing in his brain were firmly coated by aura, avoiding dissipation. And they moved as if guided to a part of the body the queen consumed, or to the blank vessel fetus inside the queen's womb. The power source that made this possible was the aura named Obsession with Life, unleashed by death removing its limiters. The clown of Crazy Slots may have even perceived Kite's death as part of the performance. "You are in trouble, you might actually die." That frivolous line sounds like a warning to Kite, but also like the system side asking for final confirmation, are preparations to activate the postmortem Nin complete. Kite chose to die once, at the end of a rational judgment as a hunter. Escaping that situation with his body intact was impossible. In that case, discard the vessel called the body and evacuate only the contents called the soul to a safe place. It was a crazy gamble, treating even his own life as a piece on the board. But he won that gamble. Kite, who made Ninstrongr after death not a curse, but a bridge to the next life. His reincarnation was not a product of chance, but a calculated miracle that could only be achieved by someone who had reached the pinnacle of Nin ability. Now, the aura swirling within Kite in the form of a girl must be shining with a deep brilliance that only those who have looked into the abyss of death can wear.